Hello, this is Clint Macro, co-host of Meet the Pressers. Tonight's special episode is going to be co-hosted by Jim Stoker. Matt Mallory and Jim are going to talk to our special guest tonight. Tonight is my son's birthday, so we're having a birthday party to celebrate that, and Jim was able to jump on and co-chair the show. So keep an eye out. Jim and I are going to be doing a side project, a spin-off of Meet the Pressers, where we talk about Pennsylvania issues specifically through Firearms Owners Against Crime Institute for Legal, Legislative, and Educational Action. So enjoy tonight's show. Jim, Matt, take it away.
Cool. All right, here we go.
Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Clint Macro. Brought to you by Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union.
This episode is brought to you by Sabre Red, pepper spray and safety products for all Americans. Next Level Training, makers of CERT training products. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Firearms Owners Against Crime Institute for Legal, Legislative, and Educational Action. Meet the Pressers is also supported by other shows, companies, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Welcome to Meet the Pressers. I'm Matt Mallory, your host, and this is my awesome co-host, Jim Stoker. Jim, how are you?
Great, Matt. Thanks for the invite tonight.
No problem. Thanks for coming back on and helping us out here in Clint's absence. Can you go ahead and give a quick intro about yourself to all the viewers and listeners out there so we can refresh their memory? I know you've been a guest in the past, but let's refresh their memory.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jim Stoker. I'm the president for FOAC-ILLEA, Firearms Owners Against Crime Institute for Legal, Legislative, and Educational Action. We are the front-running Second Amendment group in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So we deal mostly with legislation. Background, I've got 29 years in law enforcement now and 6 years prior military. So happy to be here. Glad to help. Enjoy the conversation with Devin and Mike here.
Awesome. Yeah, glad to have you back. Cool. So, Mychael.
Yes, sir. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. We bumped into each other down at KD, Kevin Dixie's Train and Learn in Missouri just a couple weeks ago. And prior to that, we saw each other. Where the heck was it? It was, SHOT Show. But then before that, it was Great America. No, it was USCC Expo in Texas in October. It's like we see each other all the time, but I think this is the first formal time we've actually got together to talk about the life and the endeavors and escapades of Mychael Waller.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you having me, Matt. Thanks, man. It's about time.
Sure.
It's about time, dude. About time. This has been a long time coming. I got my good buddy on here, Devin. Where's Devin at?
He's there.
What up? I'm right here.
His response. That's Devin's response right there. All right. What up?
And Devin, we got to have dinner together at SHOT Show. We sat out there and talked a little bit at dinner. So it's cool to get to know you there too, and then obviously see you again at Katie's Train and Learn, which I'm looking forward to going again next year. That was a freaking cool ass event with a lot of cool people.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, always.
So super. So Mychael, why don't you give us a rundown on your FFL, because I think you got some notoriety there as far as your FFL in Chicago. And then dovetail right into what kind of made you a national name as far as self-defense. And, it's definitely nothing, I'm assuming nothing that you'd want to relive if you could choose to, but it's definitely something that I'm assuming thankful for and blessed that you were able to get through unscathed physically, at least.
Yeah, so Mychael Waller, owner of MJ's Firearms. I'm a firearms retailer here in Illinois, Chicago, unfortunately. Also a range owner, Protect One LLC out in Knoxville, Tennessee. So it's an outdoor shooting range. I'll be opening up that pretty soon. Nice. Self-defense shooting survivor 2 times now, unfortunately again. And father of 3 lovely children and uncle. And yeah, that's me, Mike.
Amen. So it's funny because when we were at the USCC Expo in October in Texas, I bumped into Michael Sedini. And Michael's been a guest on the show before, and he's also been a guest co-host. And I was like, hey, you know what? I just had a thought. Why don't because you were walking with Mychael at the time, Mychael Sodini, and I'm like, why don't we have you come on as a guest co-host and help me interview Mychael Waller? And he's like, yeah, we can talk about his 2 shootings. And I'm like, wait, say what? 2? That was like my first time knowing.
Yeah.
And so that was in October. So when did it happen then? If October was when I heard about it, how soon before that did that event at the bar happen?
So it was April 30th last year.
Oh, wow.
So that was literally months before. That was at USCCA Expo is when we bumped into each other, and y'all had that conversation because you were trying to get me on, previously before for, the first one with my son in 2019. Yeah. And then, that was funny. That was hilarious because you just stopped and was like 2. Yeah, that was crazy. But that would happen April 30th of 2022. So about 3:00 in the morning.
So when I talk to people and I tell people about your story, I kind of I end with it kind of like this and tell people that you're going to be on the show and trying to promote the show. And I usually end with it in something to the extent of, I really like Mychael, and I'm just still not sure if I want to hang around with him because, and then I pause and I go, no, I'll hang around with Mychael because, even if bad stuff finds him, he's a damn good shot.
He's at least winning.
Yeah. Some people say it's bad luck, and I'm like, man, I don't know. But good luck too, because nobody by the grace of God was hurt but the bad people. So if you're not afraid to get into a gunfight, and
right? Well,
Devin will tell you. Devin is
I got the whole Chicago experience. That's what I tell Mike. Yep. We went to the famous chicken spot. He showed me the monuments, and we got in a shootout. So
that's pretty
every bit of Chicago right there.
That is fun.
There. He literally experienced. I didn't even think about it like that. He literally experienced everything. He went to a famous chicken spot in Chicago. He went to all these famous restaurants, monuments downtown, and a gunfight.
That was the first time I saw Lake Michigan, and first time I saw a shootout in South Side of Chicago.
Yeah.
Great experiences with Mike,
You and you got front row seating at that shootout too, from my understanding.
Yeah.
Front row seat.
So the first one was Mike is what I call an archangel. Like, he's the person that God sends to teach people lessons, because in both of his shootings, both people deserve to die. I'll say that very frankly. And it was better that they encountered Mike than anybody else, because they probably would have hurt more people than just trying to hurt him. So him alleviating those people off the earth, and the nuances of the story about how he essentially was like a phantom, how like another gang took responsibility for the killing of the guy that he actually smoked. It was such a blessing and such an alignment of moments. Like, there's no way it was a coincidence. We were in the exact same parking spot 3 days before?
Yep.
3 days in the exact same parking spot. And I called one of my other friends and was like, yo, I'm sitting here in Chicago. Like, I'm waiting for Mike to come back out of his house, but it feels like real eerie. Like, something doesn't feel right. 3 days later, exact same parking spot is where everything goes down.
Sure.
You know what I call that? I call that the Holy Ghost giving you a little intuition.
Yeah, for sure.
You have that gift, bro. I was gonna say, like, this man has like the front row seat. He knows the ins and outs, and he knows all the stuff that other people, stuff I don't even remember sometimes, because he was there. But that's a gift from God right there, man, because that is fun. Because you said that like, you were like, Mike, can you come out here, dude? Because like, you just didn't feel right, and like, and it's broad daylight, and sure enough, 3 days later in broad daylight again, roughly the same time, same exact spot.
So let's roll it back and kind of, I know, Mychael, you've told me and we've talked about it and stuff, and kind of what intrigued me in having you on the show to talk to about, because I want our viewers and listeners to kind of get the idea of, and you've been privy to, and Devin, I know you did, you took my Force on Force class in Missouri, the 4 horses of your apocalypse: criminal, civil, mental, and jury of public opinion. And I want to, after you tell the story, I want you to come back to the four horses of your apocalypse and tell the viewers and listeners which things affected your life after that happened. Like, how did your life change for the better or for the worse because of that encounter based on those four horses, right? Criminally, civilly, mental, jury of public opinion, that kind of stuff. So, and we'll go through them one at a time fairly quickly. But so go ahead, tell the story. Kind of just start where you left Katie's train and learn, and and go from there, and tell up to the point where the threat was over.
Okay. So the first shooting that happened in 2019, I was just leaving Kevin Dixie's event. Train and Learn Industry event was the first one ever. It was dope. I had a really, really good time. It was my first time actually taking it was probably my first official training class as far as weapons go, as far as just shooting and running guns. And we had, had a great time. Literally 16 hours after leaving there, I was with my good friend, as y'all can see here, that's on the show too, Devin. And we were coming back from St. Louis, Missouri in a rental car, still in training clothes, literally. Didn't even get a chance to change. Got to Chicago, I stopped and grabbed my son from my mom's house and headed towards downtown where my ex-girlfriend, but the girlfriend at the time, she was there living in Chicago in a little village. It was broad daylight, roughly around 3:40 in the afternoon. Back then, my son's in the back seat, Devin's in the passenger seat. I'm obviously driving. Back then, got out the car. My son looked at me. He was like, "Hey, Dad, I want to go inside and play my game." And I was like, "No, don't worry about it, man." Because I got out the car and I was literally just going to walk in and come right back out. And I had two guns. I had a HK VP9 9mm, and I had a Glock 30 45 ACP that was in the truck as well. And had the VP9 in the back seat. I got out and I started walking. And I swear my son saved my life because he kept bugging me. He was like, "Dad, I want to go in. I want to go in. Please, please, please." I spoiled my son. So I said, "Look, all right, come on." But I thought to myself, I was like, because there was a lot of activity in that one area because it's a very gang infested area. And it's mostly Spanish and Latino gangs, Latin Kings and 2-6 and things like that. So I ended up grabbing my son and I grabbed my gun. And this gun, I had a magazine in there, but it wasn't all the way loaded. In fact, Devin was actually training with that gun at Train and Learn just hours before, and it's partially his fault. He didn't load my magazine up all the way. I only had like 11 rounds.
We had finished. First of all, I wasn't even supposed to be there because we left KD's event late. I missed a train, so I wasn't even supposed to be there with Mike. But the gun that I was using that whole weekend was his VP9. And I remember I loaded it and I shot like 5 rounds. We did one drill and then me and him left. And that was just the gun that he chose to just keep in the car with us. And yeah, it had 10 rounds in it. That's for sure. I remember that.
10, a little bit more than 10. I think it was like 11 rounds, roughly. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it was 10 or more. And I grabbed that gun, put it in the holster, grabbed my son, and we walked literally like maybe 5 to 10 feet through the alley. And again, it's broad day, 3:30, 3:40 in the afternoon. I'm walking my son. I'm holding his hand. I ended up throwing some lint out of my pocket that I had from on the road. I had some lint and like just snacks and stuff like that, wrappers, throwing it out in the garbage can. If you know Chicago, everything's really, really close. So like when you walk in the alley, the garbage cans are in the alley too. It's not like New York, trash is in the front. In Chicago, trash is in the alley. Trash in the alley. So I emptied the trash out, walking my son. I saw a guy as I was dumping my trash out through the fence, and he looks at me, and I can hear him shouting. So that's what actually caught my attention and made me turn towards him because I can hear him shouting really, really loud. And he was on the phone or, doing some type of recording or some type of social media live or whatever the case is. We look at each other. He looks at me, and he's still on live, and he threatens me. He's like, "Man, what the fuck, what's going on, what it is, I start throwing up gang signs and this and that." And I'm not from that area and I'm not familiar with whatever gang he was in or what he was throwing up. I just, started backing up, and as he's throwing up gang signs with his left hand, he then pulls out a gun with his right hand. And when he pulls out that gun, I then shield my son, put him, kind of like push him, behind the the garage. It's like a little building, like a home/garage. It was right there. There's a garage attached to it. But I pushed him back behind the garage, and he has actually, which you consider probably, some cover at this point. I then go for my gun, and as I go for my gun, he then fires off a round. He's walking towards me, but he fires off a round. When he fires off a round, I then just return fire, hitting him once, and it's just a gunfight at this point. So we're going back and forth shooting at each other. He's just the other guys just letting off rounds. I sidestepped behind a fence. There was a fence to the left of me. It was a pretty crappy fence because it was missing some boards. But I sidestepped behind the fence, so I wasn't just in direct line of sight of the guy shooting at me. I sidestepped behind the fence where I had some type of cover and concealment. And as I as I'm behind the concealment behind the fence, I had my gun pointed at him still. I stopped shooting, just for a slight second because I knew I was kind of getting low on rounds. Not know exactly what number. You're not going to know those type of things, but I just slow my shots up. And as this guy is still letting off rounds because he's down. He's like actually ducked down behind like some brick pavement, and I can see him still letting off rounds, but he's just firing, not necessarily
Aiming.
Yeah, aiming accurately. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And as he just noticed me, I stopped shooting for a second. So he lifts his head up thinking I'm gone. And when he lifts his head up, I then take a shot at his head. Boom, he goes down. I then, at that moment, I turn around to see if my son is still alive pretty much. And when I made that turn, it was the slowest turn of my life because at that point, I'm like, I don't even know if my son's still alive. We just still, multiple rounds just went off, I turn around and by the grace of God, my son's 5 years old. He's just sitting there, froze, and he's still standing. I was very, very grateful, being a parent, and we just want to protect our children. I kind of just that was another instinct in me that just forced me to fight. I feel like I would have responded regardless of the simple fact, but me having my son there and it just put a different beast in me, and I just had to do what I had to do. I'm just very grateful. I feel like leaving that event held by Kevin Dixie, that kind of really put me. I just fired like 5,000 plus rounds. I mean, how much?
He literally shot every single gun at the event. I recorded it. He said, "Yo, I want to shoot every gun on this table," and we've been down the entire table and shot every gun. So his trigger finger was crisp. It was ready.
Yeah. I was ready to go. I'm very grateful, man, because I had at that particular moment I had the right mindset and skill set behind that firearm, and I did what I had to do. And I turned around, grabbed my son, I picked him up, and I darted towards the rental car, and Devin was right there. Devin is like, "Man, what the hell is going on?" And I'm like, told him, like, "Look, dude, it was just shootout." I just shot somebody. He's like, I heard it. And I grab, I give Devin my son.
This is where my, I guess, perspective or vantage point comes into play. I hear the shots go off, right? And we're in the middle of Chicago. So I'm like, all right, here we go. This is Chicago. And I'm like, wait, we're not at KD's event no more. Those are like real gunshots that are close. So I immediately was like, oh shit, that's probably Mike. So I get out and I'm running towards him, and he's running towards me with the kid, and he just throws him at me. I'm like, all right, well, know what to do with this. Throw him in the back and pile every piece of luggage on top of him.
Yeah, literally.
He hands me the 45, and I jumped into the driver's seat and was like, all right, yo, like, we got to get out of here. We're getting the fuck out of here. There's nothing. Yeah. I don't care who's down that way. We're getting out of here. But yeah. It was wild. It was wild. And to see how his son just reacted the days after it happened, that was also a blessing, because I think me watching how he reacted helped my mental health, because he was like a regular kid, like right after it happened. And I'm sure there might have been something there that might have processed afterwards, but in the moments, I think we went back to his mom's house and he was playing with his cousins. Like, it was regular. And I was like, that's a blessing that he knows that his dad is a protector to the point where he's not worried about it, even after he's seen his dad have to go to work. So that's a testament to Mike and making sure that his son is, you know, vigilant and understanding of what Mike is and what Mike does. And then a testament to the blessing that he was when it all transpired.
So I got a question for you, Mike. Something critical that a lot of people don't understand, having not been in that situation, the difference between trained and untrained. What range were you at when this thing erupted?
When it first started, we was just shy of 10 feet. And then when we just started exchanging gunfire, he started backing up, and he was honestly about 15 to 16 feet away from me.
So you're talking about a 10 foot to 15 foot range, and he couldn't hit. And that's the difference between your training and what you just went through.
So true.
What he didn't have. We try to drive that home for folks. They don't always get it. So hearing it from you is going to be a big impact.
And,
yes, sir. Yes, thank you.
And if you put into that context, I mean, that lines up with the USCCA CCHDF curriculum with Tom Gibbons' data. So Tom Gibbons says that 86.2% of the time violent encounters happen within 9 to 15 feet, and that falls right into that mark. So wow, it's pretty profound. So how is well, first off, because this is coming to my mind because I've got lots of kids and lots of grandkids. How is your son today? Is there any mental trauma or scars or anything?
No, man. MJ is great. My son, Mychael Waller Jr., he is great. He's doing really good in school. I monitored him. I think I spoke to a counselor immediately right after that happened.
Good.
And they told me the best way, a kid at that age, he was 5 years old, the best way you can really, really tell with a kid at that age is if they're in school, especially if they're 5 years old, you're fresh in school. Monitor his school. So I immediately the next day when he went to school, they encouraged me to take him to school. They were like, because you want to see how he's going to respond after that. Yeah. So I talked to the principal. I talked to his teachers. They knew what happened. They knew what was going on. It was all over the news in Chicago. So it was really, really, it was a lot going on. And they knew. And they monitored him. And, I mean, he was literally student of the month the next month. He was, student of the month.
So, so you alluded to the fact that some other gangs had claimed the shooting. How did that affect it? How did that transpire and play out for you? Because I mean, you're the one that everybody knows, defended yourself in that situation. Yeah. So how did how did that play out? Did that factor in at all as far as your self-defense claim and charges and all that stuff?
Well, I mean, right before that, I think kind of how it all, I think it's a little bit deeper. Right after that shooting, that guy is down on the ground. I then even also try to render aid to him, and I call first responders immediately. So they were to be able to get on scene really, really fast. Also clean it up really, really fast. So, I mean, gangs didn't have enough time to drive through and see exactly who's there, what's going on. They were there. I mean, the detectives did their thing, and then they were gone. Because they saw.
Hold on, Mike. No, they did not. They did not get there fast. They did. That's because you had your adrenaline pumping. I remember sitting there, and I was like, I remember I watched them drive past us. I had to go down to the street and wave them back to where we were. And then I remember when we were leaving, I'm hearing them say that they needed somebody to come watch the scene, and they didn't have enough police to come block it off so they could do their job. It was wild. And then I remember when the guy was asking us yo, y'all actually tried to help him. Mike was like, yeah. He was like, I'm not trying to help nobody that shot at me and my kid. The cop said that. I was like, whoa.
I remember that.
They asked us have you guys ever thought about being police? And we were like, no.
Yeah, no. Do you remember them actually arresting me, Devin? Because I had my hands up and
I remember them putting handcuffs on you. I don't know. I didn't know if they
detaining me.
They'll detain you till they know who's who. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. They did that, and I feel like all of that kind of played a part because that kind of when they got there, they were doing work, and I saw a bunch of cops then, and then they had me sitting in the back of the squad car, got me to the police station, and Devin also came down there as well, and I was sitting inside. I was talking. I'll never forget her name, Detective Battolini. The officer, huge shout out to Chicago Police Department. I normally don't do this, but because they have a bad rep.
Hey,
they
treated us very well.
They did a great job. I would definitely give them credit there. They did a great job. Those officers were like, look, man, you did what I would have did. I mean, it was cutting, it was just clean, cut, dry. And
I think that's what really sped up the process that you were talking about. That when they got there, they noticed that, okay, they're clearly somewhat trained. They tried to save the guy. This is clear cut. He's the offender. And then they figured out that the dude had a rap sheet.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, all right. And then once you put up the profiles of that guy and then Mike's profile and his reputation in Chicago, it's like, are we going to waste too much time on this in Chicago? Or are we going to get to
right, bigger crimes? So something stands out with all that you're saying. One thing that Masad Ayub says is that, the evil will flee. And the Bible says that, and Masad, professes that. So you didn't flee the scene. So that's a plus. I think that was one thing that went for you. Two, you're the one that called the police. So the first person to call 911 typically is a victim. And that's what we profess in our industry is, if you show your gun, not even use it, if you just show your gun in public in a defensive situation, you best be calling the police and reporting that, because somebody else reports it before you could be considered the bad guy. So I think those two things benefit you. But I think something also that's profound, you said that you were handcuffed and put in the back of the patrol car, and taken to the precinct, and they were still treating you as if you were the good guy, like in
the
that
entire
sense.
time.
So people out there that think, and this is also in the USCCA CCHF curriculum, that just because you are the good guy and you did defend yourself, it is an affirmative defense. You are admitting that you had to use defense against somebody, life-threatening, deadly physical force, to defend yourself. And they are, like Jim alluded to, they are going to have to go through the process to verify you're telling the truth. And that may include you being handcuffed, put in the back of a car, and brought down to the precinct and photoed, fingerprinted, and maybe even interviewed for who knows how many hours. So all that being said, people that think, well, it's cut and dry, I'm going to shoot them, they're going to show up, I called the police, so they're going to let me go.
Right.
Not necessarily true.
No.
And they might not treat you well like they treated you if something doesn't make sense.
And for Chicago, see, I live here and I deal with these cops. I sell guns to a lot of these cops here. And there's a lot of good ones, there's a lot of bad ones. And I'm pro police, but I also because I am pro police, I also tell them the truth too. If they do something, not right, I'm gonna call them out. I don't have no problem with that. But they did a great job. They did a great job. CPD Chicago, they did a great job. Had no issues with their Detective Badalini. You shout out to her. She did a good job. She handled everything, and literally sitting there in the investigation room, she told me, like, because I was concerned, like, hey, are these guys going to try to come after me? They're rival gang, they're gang members, this and that. And she was like, in fact, this guy was recording on live, and the gang that he was threatening on that live screen, that live recording.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to take credit for it because he's on live and he gets shot at and he gets killed.
I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of wild that they said their snitches had already told them that by the time we were leaving the precinct. I was like, yo, I don't believe nothing in the streets no more. We had just, matter of fact,
literally,
we got, they wrote the article about the shooting before we left the precinct.
Yep.
Really?
Yes.
Yep.
I was literally sitting there. I have an app called Breaking News, and the story came on my phone because they let us keep our phones. Mike actually called me like while we were in different spots, I guess. And I was just looking, and because I was in Chicago, it, I guess, synced to where Chicago news was. And I'm reading the story. I still have it, like screenshot at the time and everything. It was like maybe 6 p.m. that night.
Yeah.
And already had the story up about Mike having to put one down.
Yeah, the media likes to listen to the police scanner all the time, and they will show up at the strangest scenes because they think something's there. Sometimes they're right,
Yeah.
And I think in this day and age, they have to, because everybody's live streaming. Everybody's a news story. Yeah, exactly. And also something that I've noticed too
Y'all
is
probably can't see this, but it says 7:15 at 15 minutes ago on the day on May 30th.
Yeah. Wow.
They had the article out.
Yeah, this day and age, they're not even vetting sources. Back in the day, I remember it used to have you have to have 3 sources to be able to run with a story. And now they just run with a story. And if they get it wrong, the only reason they'll retract it is if they're going to get sued, or, if they, some other pressure gets put on them. Other than that, they're just, we got it wrong. Oh, well, who cares? It's sickening. So
This is wild.
So all of that. Now let's apply the 4 horses of your apocalypse, right? criminal, civil, mental, and jury of public opinion, something that I created, a term that I created. So the criminal aspect, you were detained, you were interviewed, but were you ever formally charged?
No.
Good. Civilly, did you get any civil suits because you took this dirtbag out of the world? No. So that's good.
No.
Right. Mental, and we've talked about this. We actually talked about this in Missouri at the training, 80s Train and Learn. What mental things, and before you answer, I want to give the viewers and the listeners two prongs or two things that are usually found in the mental aspect. And I told you this already, so you know, but so one would be sleepless nights or night terrors. And the other one would be, and I'm interested to hear the second one, because I know the first one, and you'll allude to it here in a second, but the second aspect of that is going to be the mark of Cain. So family members or friends will disown you because of what you did. They can't believe that you did what you did. And then family members or friends will distance themselves from you because you've changed. You don't know what, they don't know what to say to you. And you need your space is the excuse they'll give. So that being said, how did mentally how those three prongs there, those three different things, the sleepless nights, night terrors, and then the mark of Cain, those two, the twofold of those, how did your life change at all mentally?
Oh, Jesus Christ, I've never had anyone put it in those type of terms before. Man, I hope none of my family members watch this. They're gonna be pissed, because I had a lot of family members that were like, well, you say family, I say relatives. Your family is people who are loyal to you. Your relatives are people who are blood connected to you. So some of my relatives, a lot of my relatives, they did feel a certain type of way because, initially right after, I had a lot of them contact me, and they were kind of genuine about it. They were like, look, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm just so grateful you're okay. This is and that. And then when all the news coverage came and articles and magazines and things like that, they were like, oh man, he's, trying to, get like coverage or clout from this, kind of thing. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I felt that, that was really wrong for them to kind of like make that type of judgment, because they're not really in my shoes. I think about it every day, every single shooting I've been in. That's not just two. So like, I think about it every single day. And that's, it does at some point, it is a lot. What helps me get through that is knowing the reason why I did those, those things and the people I saved those days. And in every single one of those situations, no innocent person was ever hurt. And I brought a lot of people back home. I mean, people who were crying and screaming, talking about they were thinking they'd never seen their kids again. I brought them back home, and that helps me live with it and, go on day by day. It's like, it makes me, the moment I see them, I'm having a hard time. I see my son, it's like I'm over it right away, because I don't regret anything. Any round I fired downrange or at, so I never regret it.
And it's still, I mean, I associate it just kind of like Groundhog Day, right? I mean, it's there, it's in your head, and certain PTSD, it's what it is, right? You're going to have certain things that are going to bring it back up. That that smell that you smell, and you're like, brings you back to your childhood. I mean, it's the exact same concept. So it's just something you have to stay, so that you don't get depressed, or you don't go down that dark channel. You have to be connected with your family and your friends and the people you saved, and your kid especially. I mean, that right there is that's
absolutely that does help me. So and the sleepless nights, it happens, but again,
more than, and it's gotten better over time, I would imagine.
Yeah, but I think it depends on the person. Like sleepless nights for me is not. I think I kind of like, if the moment I'm thinking about it, I either call my son, he always picks up. I call him, or if he's right next to me, I go hug him, and I'm perfectly fine. Good friend Alex, he was with me the first time, with a second in my second shooting. I give him a call, or any of the people that were there and that day at the bar, I give them a call, and it helps me get over that. I'll talk to Devin all the time. It helps me get over those those type of get through that moment, let me say. So I guess that's just that's kind of how I deal with it. Just talking to the family and talking to the people that I saved that day, I guess you can kind of say.
The another thing that I associate with my students is the 22 veterans that are committing suicide daily. And, you know, if you've got people, and I would think I'm fathom that they wouldn't feel that despair if they had friends and family close that they could talk to, like you're alluding to. I think that that's important for people to understand. If people are struggling, you can't just distance yourself from them and be like, well, you know, I just need to give them their space. And, you know, on the flip side, even if the person's saying, I just leave me alone, get away from me, they're pushing people away because, you know, that the relationships are tough. But if you really care about somebody, you got to be there for them. So it's good that you've got those close people like Devin and such that can be there for you.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
I think after the first one, we were on the phone every single day.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty
and then again, another blessing. That's right when I got tapped in with Walk the Talk America. So talking to Mike and Jake was amazing. And then obviously KD, you can call him and he loves to talk. So you can talk to him for forever about whatever.
He does love to talk.
Yeah. KD was another one.
Even it was funny because I don't know what attributes this to why Mike did it, but even after the second one, I think his first stop was coming here.
It was, yeah.
Like, yo,
That's good.
I need to be around the ones that I was around the first time.
Yep.
And whatever haven that provided for him, I'm happy it did because it doesn't seem like he's missed a step at all.
Good.
Like even after the first one, the boy got bit by the training bug and was at every class coast to coast every single week. I was jealous, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you realize that might be what helped keep you alive. It makes a big difference.
Yeah,
right.
So here's
Mike,
a question for you, Mike, something that might help people that are tuning in. We talk a lot about with students whenever we train them about concealed carry seminars, what to expect when things do go south. Without getting deep into the emotion of it, where did your mind go? Were you one of the ones that were steady and focused, knowing what you had to do? Or did you start doing the somersaults that a lot of folks do, trying to overcome the training of, you know, don't pull the trigger, don't point the gun at somebody, don't, you know, all the safety issues that they have to overcome?
After the fact or
During, when everything goes south?
Man, I got in that, what you call tunnel vision. I like that's kind of that fight, flee, or freeze. I immediately responded. And I think my son did play a huge part in that because I had a child right there. So I'm a parent. And
Keeps you grounded. Yeah.
It keeps you grounded. I had to respond. I believe any parent who truly loves their children would do the same thing. In that situation, it was kind of different because as a parent, you're going to respond. Like, I don't know if you guys have kids, but if you do, for any one of your kids, you guys are going to, you'll be surprised what you.
Yeah, you're not fighting for yourself. You're fighting for him.
You'll be surprised. So I immediately responded and, I did what I had to do.
Yeah, I think that's a big question for a lot of folks. You can train, but they don't know where they're going to be till they get there. And, coming out of the service,
absolutely,
the things we did in the service, obviously there's some exposure there, but even then, that second time around, it's not always the same as the first.
Nope.
So you can do hurdles. Your brain can be anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen some of the toughest looking dudes, man. Huge, swole tattoos, military experience, police, not police, street people. There's a mom I've seen, and she literally, she'll respond like that. It's not about you. It's not the color. No, it's not about the color of your skin. It's not about your race. It's not about your religion, sex, anything like that. I believe you just either got it in you or you just don't. And some people, you'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised. Don't judge anyone because you never know what someone is capable of doing. So
totally. I love that saying.
We've seen it, but it's good to hear it.
Yeah.
I love that saying that Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly.
So train saying too,
right? Just train, get as much practice in as you can. And then if the shit hits the fan, just pray to God that you got it in you and you can move on and the training takes off. All right. So the last one of the 4 horses, and then I want to get on to your second shooting. And that just sounds so wrong saying it that way, but it is what it is. So the jury of public opinion, did you have any public figures, any public organizations, anybody publicly call you out and say that in the negative? Was anybody against what you did publicly?
Besides the family, no. I didn't have really a lot. I mean, the NRA, they shared the article right away. USCCA, US Ball Shield, US, it was another concealed carry. I mean, a lot of the bigger ones, NRA women, all that stuff, they shared it immediately, and I didn't get really any backlash. The news, ABC7, every single major news network here, ABC7, CNN, what's it, ABC7, and then Fox News, Chicago, all of them, they shared it. And
all good. All good PR.
No. I would say about 80% was good, but
okay. So there was about 20 that was
that was negative. Because we are in a blue state, so it was negative. But still, even then, a lot of people were like, he did what he had to do. So
well, when you say negative, give a little high, because my point with this, and I don't scratch on a wound or anything, but I really want people to understand that you could be charged criminally, you could be sued civilly, and in your case, neither of those happened, thank God.
Right.
But a lot of people really just think that's it. They don't really think the mental torment they're going to go through having to pull that trigger. But even after the fact, everything's cleared. You criminally, civilly, and mentally, you're starting to heal. It doesn't mean that you might not have some people out there that think you shouldn't have done what you did. And because we see it with George Zimmerman, we see it with Kyle Rittenhouse, we see it with all these people that have been in situations where, the jury of public opinion to this day is still, Kyle Rittenhouse, the situation he was in. And to this day, people are still, trouncing on him, and he's also getting sued civilly. So there's a lot that, that's affecting him. So just touch on that 20% you mentioned that were, the jury of public opinion, where they were against, or it was bad PR. What kind of bad PR are we talking about?
Well, mostly those big news networks, they in the comments, reading some of them, and my family members, like my mom, people who care about me really dearly and close, they were reading through some of them, and I kind of like told them like they had to stop, because some people were like, why did he shoot the guy in the head? He should have shot him in the arm. He didn't have to kill him. Things like that. This guy's gonna go to jail because he had, a gun that held more than 10 rounds. They didn't really know the law. There was a lot of extra, a lot of people were saying, why was he in that area? He didn't necessarily have to be there, kind of thing, not knowing that I had at the time, my girlfriend, she lived there.
Yeah.
They just didn't. It was most of the time when you get those negative comments, people they weren't there, and they don't know the full story. They didn't even really read the full article. They just making their own opinion based off of, lack of knowledge, I guess you can say.
It's ignorance. It's
ignorance,
1,000% ignorance. They just answer the spur of a cuff, just whatever comes to mind. They don't even want to look at all the facts. They just want to say whatever. It drives me nuts to see stuff like that. I like John Correa's mindset of I think it's 72 hours or something before you make any comment. Wait until all the facts come in, or more facts come in, before you start spewing out your thoughts. And I try to follow somewhat of the same mindset, because you don't know. It's a white guy and black guy get into a gunfight. Okay, well, so cop shoots a unarmed black person. Okay, white cop shoots an unarmed black person. We can't just take that side because I'm law enforcement. Because I'm white, or you're black. We got to wait, think about it, and say there's good and bad people in all races, all businesses, all types of professions, and go on that as the base. We're all human. We all bleed the same to start.
Sure. No, I agree. Sure.
Cool. All right. So anything, Devin, that you want to add that Mychael got wrong?
Nah, he didn't get anything really wrong. The only thing that I really like to highlight is that without Mike, there's a good chance I would have been in a direct line of danger following Chicago's gun laws and not having one on me when we got there. Yeah. And I really wanted to highlight the fact that I could have died and a gang member had a gun. And the reason why was because I didn't follow the law. So That's really it, more than anything. And that was
victim
for
of gun
Chicago.
control.
Yeah, victim of gun control.
Yeah, he was
So-
a victim of gun control that day.
So
And,
that being said, I mean, was it? I mean,
I never followed gun laws after that day.
Well, and I mean, that goes to say something as far as like, I personally make the joke that I became a law enforcement officer just so I could have all the illegal things that the peasants that this government oversees can't, and of course that's joking. I didn't do that for that reason, but it's my way of basically saying that it sucks that good, legal, law abiding, moral, prudent people can't defend themselves against dirtbags and aren't going to abide by the law. And, and I'm blessed and lucky enough to be in law enforcement where I don't have to do it illegally and to be able to make sure my life and my family is safe.
For sure. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like if, let's say Mike wasn't the intercessor, right? In this situation, that guy peels the corner, he sees me sitting in the car. What's stopping him from putting the same energy on me that he put on Mike? And I don't have nothing. I'm naked. I'm in the alley just there. It could have went left, but that's why the Archangel was there. That's why his name is Mychael.
Well, and that's the irony of it. Those laws were put into place to try to impact him, and instead they made it so you were a potential victim
Exactly.
of
Yep.
Yeah.
So true. All right, so let's get on to the next one because I know we want to wrap up here and get to our families because we love them all so much. So, what bring us up to date with 2022? You said, was it April of 2022 that the
April
30th. April 30th.
So it was not an April Fool's joke. It truly happened. You went into a white bar, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So it was a bar. It's called the Ryan's Pub. It's in Frankfort, Illinois, right off Route 30, Lincoln Highway. I was leaving a good friend of mine, his tattoo shop downtown Chicago, Buddy Ryan. I was leaving his tattoo shop, drove back home because I was like, look, I'm gonna get out the city. It's getting late. I don't want to get into any issues. Let me get home and let me go towards this really, really nice area. And a good friend of mine, Alex, he works at a local gun shop here. He was talking earlier that day about going to the Ryan's Pub, the bar. And a lot of people at that shop gave him crap and they kind of picked on him a little bit. And he thought a lot of me because, I was obviously, spokesperson, for USCCA and things like that. And official partner, all that good jazz. So he was like, man, Mike, he just thought a lot of me and I appreciated that. And I wanted to kind of show him some love. And so I ended up going there and I drove there and I was pulled in the parking lot and I saw his car with all those damn gun stickers on the back. And I went in and he saw me. He was like, when I walked in, everybody was quiet. They were like, because it's a biker bar. It's known for, it's just a white biker bar. And typically the people that come there are regulars. And I walked in and they were all quiet. And Alex turned and was like, Mike. And Alex is a regular. And when he came in and embraced me, I was pretty much family ever since then, especially, after what I'm about to tell you. We hanged out for a few hours. It was about 26 to 30 people inside the bar at the time. It was about 1:30 in the morning. They closed at 3. Time started going by, and Alex got me a few drinks, and I was still carrying a gun, so I decided not to drink. Just being a responsible gun owner, I knew I couldn't have a gun inside of a bar. But when I walked inside this bar, I didn't see the sign posted that you could not have a firearm. And I know here in the state of Illinois, the law is that at the end of the year, if the sales is 51% greater as far as alcohol, you can't carry a gun inside that establishment. But if it's less than 51%, or like let's say 49, whatever the case is, you can carry a gun there even if they do serve alcohol. This is a pub, so they have food and alcohol there. So I didn't know, and I wouldn't know that, especially if there's no signs posted. So I walked in. I had my gun concealed, appendix carry. I had an MTP shield. It was a first generation shield too. It was nothing fancy. It was a backup gun. Mm-hmm. It was a single stack 9mm. I had some 147 grain elite performance rounds in there. SIG appendix carry. I had a 8+1 spare magazine and a flashlight. That's really it. Walked in. 3 time goes by, 3 o'clock rolls around. Let's say 2:40. Everybody's out of. Everybody pretty much left. Closing time. It's about 6 people inside the bar. Well, technically 7. The owner actually lived upstairs at the time. I did not know this. This was my first time being there. The owner lived upstairs, and there was 2 bartenders, a male and a female, Alex and me, and then there was 2 gentlemen that was actually on the porch smoking cigarettes. And 2:45, 2:50, closing time. 2 guys walked inside the bar. They're in all black clothing, pitch black, hoods over their head, ski mask, and they walked in like, "Hey, can we get a drink?" And Mike, the bartender, responded, was like, "Look, I'm sorry, we called last call about 40 minutes ago. Unfortunately, we're not serving any more alcohol, so I can't serve you." And the guys, they were just looking around, and he then asked him, "Are you sure I can't get a drink? We came from, far a long way away." And just by looking at from where I can see and the sound of their voices, I can tell that they're African American. I can see their eyes and the front part of their face, but the rest was covered. And when they said that, I kind of it's like, that's not really, this is like, and I know I'm like, this isn't really a bar any of us would come to. They look younger than me. I'm like, this isn't a bar that even I would come to. The only reason why I'm here is because of Alex. I'm like, this didn't sound right. Things weren't just adding up, and I can really sense something in the air. We all could. And I believe after my first shooting,
Intuition.
I think, yeah, man, you change as a person, and when something like that, I'm not saying you're superhuman or anything like that, but you do see things that the average person won't see, especially after you take life in a situation like this. And I can sense something was definitely going to go sideways really, really fast. The guys then, they still look around. They're like, "Well, man, you sure you can't get a drink? Can I at least go to the bathroom?" The bartenders are not responding to him. I kind of just jump in and intervene. And I'm like, "Look, because I want to kind of de-escalate the situation, especially me being the only African American guy inside the establishment." I'm like, "Look, yeah, there's a bathroom right behind me. You can use the bathroom." And he takes his hand out of his pocket, and he had on a latex glove.
Oh.
When I saw the latex gloves, I said, I took my gun out my holster. I had it at a low ready. I was behind the bar. The guy, then he was like, "All right, fine. I just want to use the bathroom and we'll go." And he starts to walk around the bar. And as he starts to walk around the bar, still has his hands out, I holster my gun again because the bathroom is right behind me. And I don't want him to walk next to me and see a gun. Because then he may, either just, immediately react, or he may just run out, whatever the case is. But then I'm brandishing a firearm, and I'm kind of breaking the law too. So I'm like, well, you know what? When he put the gun back up, he doesn't see it. He walks all the way around the bar, and literally seconds after I put my gun up, his friend pulls out his gun, then he pulls out a gun, and they jump across the counter, and they have guns pointed at all of us. And all 4 of us, we got our hands up. He's, they're threatening us. They're threatening all of us. They're, trying to kill everybody, telling everybody, put all your belongings on the bar. They're going, they're patting our pockets down. I have my little, MP shield, single stack Penix carry. He's patting me down. He does not find my gun because he's patting pretty much at my 3 o'clock and in my pockets and stuff like that. And I kind of back up, and I then jump into this like, here, whatever you guys need kind of role, because I don't want him to really have too much attention on me. I also want to kind of use what I got as far as us kind of looking alike to de-escalate the situation, and we're just trying to work as much best I can in my benefit. And I'm like, "Look, let me get whatever you need." He told me, "Go get that lady's purse." I go and get the lady's purse. I hand him the purse. He's dumping the lady's purse on the ground. She had a gun in that purse, so they were able to gain access to her gun too.
Oh, geez.
They're threatening everyone again. They're going to the register, taking all the money. He then points the gun at the Mike, the bartender, and was like, "Man, go in the back and get my money." And Mike responded to him like, "Look, man, there isn't any more money. I gave you everything I had." The lady's crying at this time. She's like, "Listen, I have a family. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me." She is crying. And when I heard her cry, that kind of put a different that triggered that turned that switch on for me too. Like, because I grew up around 6 sisters, that's all I had. I didn't have my brother in my life, and I had my 6 sisters, and I had to take care of all of them kind of in a way. So I was like, I always had to fight for them and things like that. So I was like, look, it put a different beast in me. So I was like, it literally turned me up. So I was like, all right, I got to do something. And he's telling everybody, well, Mike says there's no more money. He gets agitated. He's like, look, man, everybody get face first on the ground. But he's telling everybody, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. He's like, everybody, get face first on the ground. I'm going to just start killing you guys. Like an execution. I said, you know what? No. I ain't going out like this. I'm looking. I'm like, look, how can if I can get my gun out and I can get shot, if I can get my gun out, I can beat them. I know I can. I'm like, look, I can beat these guys. I'm confident in my skill set. I'm like, I can do it if I can get this gun out. But I'm looking at the circumstances, and just by being trained, I'm like, look, you gotta, looking at I had a guy to the left of me. He was, I had 2 innocent people directly in the line of fire. If I fire my gun, because I can shoot this guy right here in front of me easy, but he's going to turn and shoot us. And he's really, really close to this Julian and Mike. And I'm like, look, I don't want him to shoot these people. And I don't want to just pull some type of John Wick move in here and then, potentially get people hurt. So I said, I had to wait for that right opportunity, that right moment. And when he tells everybody to get on the ground, I'm thinking in my head, well, Mychael, if you're going to do something, you got to do it now. And you'd be surprised, like all this stuff kind of slow down in my head. I get in that tunnel vision, and I get this, I'm thinking like if everybody gets on the ground, everybody's low, and I can raise up and I can shoot these guys, the chances of them actually hitting them will be a little bit slimmer because these people are already on the ground, and I'll be the only one standing up. So if I'm gonna, something's gonna happen, it's gonna happen now, and I got to make a move. And as we all get down on the ground, I go for my gun. As I raise up, I look to my right. They were gone. And I hear some stumbling, and I can still hear them yelling, face first on the ground, face first on the ground. I'll raise up. I see the guy by the door, both of the guys by the door. I raise up. He turns towards me. He still has a gun in his hand. Mm-hmm. He turns towards me. He's like, I told you, get on the ground, stay on the ground. I raise up and I fire. And I fired all 9 rounds. I hit that guy several times. Most of the rounds were center mass chest shots, and he caught a round to the head as he was going down. He fell through the door. His other friend was right behind him. I shot him as well. When I shot him, he fell down the stairs. He dropped his gun and was able to get away in the getaway car. So both of those guys, one guy was down on the scene. The other guy was able to, flee in the getaway car. But he was, I knew he was shot. He was suffering from a gunshot wound. So I then, darted out to the back door. I told the guy, when I darted out to the back door, both of those guys ran towards me like, man, what just happened? Da, da, da. I'm like, call 911. It was just a robbery. I saw my buddy Alex run towards the front, and I'm like, I yelled like, Alex, don't go out there. And I dropped my magazine. I reached in my left pocket, grabbed my spare mag, tapped it, racked the slide, ran out to the front door, and I grabbed Alex and I jumped in front of him and I scanned the area, and that's where I saw the gun. There was another gun about 8 feet from where his friend was laying, and I ran out there, still scanning, and I ran to the gun. When I went to try to pick up the gun, when I picked it up and pulled the slide back, I realized the weight of the gun, it just didn't make sense. It was a replica gun. It wasn't a real gun. I went up to Alex and I was like, Alex, bro, and I put that gun back on the ground. I said, Alex, he was like, Mike, I already know. Because he took the gun out the other guy's hand, and he was like, and we both work in the firearms industry. He was like, bro, they're replicas. He said, they say Walther on them. They're replicas, though. They're not
airsoft or something.
They're just replica. I don't know they're replicas. I don't know. They felt like airsoft guns, but they look like real guns.
So that's play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I mean, don't.
Yeah, man. It was crazy. I was like, these dudes just, and we had a similar situation in Texas where that guy robbed that place with a replica gun. Yep. And he also lost his life, but it was very unfortunate. When I'm standing over this guy and he's literally, he's dead at this moment. Where I'm checking his pulse and it's extremely low, but he's already gone. It's just that blood just flowing out. That's the only really pulse I'm actually getting, very, very low. And I'm giving him chest compressions, and then again, these guys just try to kill us, and and they threaten our lives, and again, I'm still as a gun owner. It's just a good guy. I'm also, again, I'm trying to render aid to a person who just tried to
kill
harm
you.
us.
Yeah.
I had a guy
Or at
shoot
least-
me for it, and at the same time, I had a guy try, and then I'm just,
So that-
just good. Just at the end of the day, they think that we all gun owners and we're all crazy and we're bad people. It's not true.
Last thing we want to do.
My son and I took off my own jacket to try to, save his life. But I saw a gunshot wound in his head, and obviously I knew he was dead, and this guy was dead too, and other guy shot. I just, it was a lot going on, man. But
you got to keep that perspective, though, Mike, that you didn't pick the fight; they did. In both of those instances, they picked the fight, and like you said, they brought paperweights to a gunfight, and they started it. So that, and what's interesting to me is when I talk to a lot of people about, they'll say, "Hey, what's it like to have been in a shooting?" Things of that nature, and I try to talk about that adrenaline push you get, the fight or flight you were talking about. That adrenaline push, that's your body's way of giving you that edge, and you're making up, you're compensating. They don't have that. No, they don't have that because they feel like they're in control of that situation, and now your body's actually giving you that advantage. Some people don't get that, but thank God you do, because apparently it honed you in really well.
Yeah, yes, I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, it was a lot, man. Right after that, I darted right back inside the bar, and I ran towards the female bartender, and I said, because she's lost it. She just heard 9 rounds go off right in front of her face, like it was in her. Her life was just threatened. It was a lot, and I just ran over there, and I was talking with her, and Mike was like, I got her, man. She's good. And checked on her. I cleared my gun, and law enforcement, Frankfurt Police Department in Will County, huge shout out to them again. They handled it great. I had no issues with them. I put my gun on the bar. I cleared it. I took the round out of the chamber. I took that spare magazine I had, us laid it on the bar. I separated them. I grabbed that spare mag that was on the ground. I put it next to the gun. I left it all right there. I just made sure it was safe, cleared it, and I put everything else, which is pretty much everything else, was on the bar. And I ran it back out towards the front door. They're on phone with first responders, Will County and Frankfurt PD. I felt like, again, they got there fast, but who knows? They could have got there later. I felt like they got there pretty fast. And the moment they got on the scene, I was never even put in handcuffs this time. Frankfurt did a great job. They were able to see exactly what's going on. I told them I am the shooter. Alex was right there, standing with me. He was like, "Look, you guys, he's a good guy. We were just robbed, and this guy saved us. What do we got to do?" And we just, complied with law enforcement. Law enforcement did it again. They did a great job. They took me to the back of they still detain you, but they detained all of us technically, because they were witnesses. So they took all four of us to the Will County Sheriff's Department, and we did this. It's kind of the same concept. Also, when I was on the scene, I made a phone call to USCCA. I had on the back of that card. There's a phone call. There's a number on the back there to the critical response team. I called the critical response team, USCCA. They got on it right away. I had no issues with that. They actually my mom took over. She was out of town, but they were on the phone with my mother. I mean, everything was, it was handled like perfectly fine. So huge shout out to USCCA. Mike Bauer, a good friend of mine, like a brother. I got on the phone with him. He handled everything. He jumped in there, took care of it. He made sure he got the best attorney over there to me. Shout out to Dave McDermott Law Group in Homewood, Illinois. He did a great job. He's family. I, got a lot of love for him and his people there. Did a great job. He came there a few hours later, and he took care of business. I was in the investigation room with 2 detectives. When I was sitting with them, we were there. It happened at 3 in the morning. We were there until about 10:30, 11ish in the morning. We stayed there for some hours. The detectives investigated. They interviewed the other 3 people were there, the 2 bartenders, then Alex, and there was video footage of the entire thing. They reviewed the video footage. They talked to all 3 of the witnesses that were there with me, and then they came and interviewed me last. And when they interviewed me, the detectives, they were, great. They before they even came in there, I don't want to say too much, but before they even came in the room, they didn't, he made sure he was like, look, Mike, I'm not recording anything. I'm gonna let you know that. But I want you to answer these questions, it's clear cut and, just straightforward. Don't give me anything extra. We saw what happened and we are on your side 100%. He says, Frankfurt Police Department do not want to press charges. And from what we have saw, we don't want to press charges on you neither. So, and we are totally on your side. And he was like, for example, I'm going to, give you a question and I want you to answer just like this. He's like, were you in fear for your life? And I said, yes, I was. And he said, stop. I want your answers to be straightforward, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing less, just like that. Just answer the question. He then went out, hit record on the, started recording the interview, and he said, what happened, and he said, were you in fear for your life? I said, yes, I was. He says, did you feel like the other people that was inside the establishment were in fear for their life? I said, yes, they were. And he says, were you, were you the one actually carrying a gun? Was there anybody else carrying a gun? How'd you bring the gun? I was like, I had a gun on me. I'm licensed to carry. And he said, left it at that. He asked a few other questions regarding the people that were there and do I feel like those people were going to actually, inflict harm on us and things like that. And I was like, yeah, of course. My attorney, Dave McDermott, he came in shortly after that and he talked with them as well. So he actually had me stop talking because he kind of encouraged you not to say anything, let him do everything, which is right. If your attorney's there, let him handle everything. Don't say really anything. I would tell anyone that. But I felt like I did the right thing, and I wasn't saying anything that I wasn't supposed to say. So I know that.
Well, it sounds like
it's in a situation before.
It sounds like they were watching out for you. So
they were. I can feel that. I can feel that the police. They were like
that agency. Yeah.
They were not on any games. I never felt that. So like I don't have this like when people. I never had a bad experience with really like that with law enforcement to where they, try to really do something. Or I feel like they handled it really, really well.
So
I'm gonna leave it at that.
And I think that the USCCA's four-part statement, I was attacked by that person. These were the witnesses. Here's the evidence, and I've called my attorney. I left a message to my attorney. I think that's a good base to go by because you got lucky in both situations where they were on your side. They knew you. But if an agency gets at all of a hint that maybe you are not as innocent as you're claiming to be, or there's something else such as you've got a 15 round magazine and you're not supposed to have more than a 15 round magazine like that here in New York, that could tip that scale where they say, well, you're breaking the law doing this. What makes us think that you're actually innocent in this situation?
Right.
So you definitely were blessed in that sense to have both agencies on your side. So anybody listening or watching, be mindful of that the law enforcement agencies that Mychael dealt with really, watched out for him where it might not always be that way. So be mindful as far as having your attorney and let your attorney speak for you would definitely be my advice.
Yeah. I agree. In that situation, they did a great job. And
another point here is you had witnesses and you had video. Yeah. And you were still at the police station being interviewed for 7+ hours.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
People don't get that.
Yeah. Like, you think it's not going to be that quick. It's going to be, you're going to be in there for a while because they got to figure out what's going on. And Frankfurt Police Department and Will County, they decided not to press charges, but we, at the end of the day, you still got to wait for the higher up and the big dogs, which DA. The state, unfortunately, DA. They were like, the investigate. Well, the detectives, they're like, we don't want to press charges. After we heard what you said, we still agree. We don't want to press any charges. Frankfurt doesn't want to press any charges, but unfortunately, we got to wait for the state of Illinois. Because my concern was, I asked the female detectives, because there was 2 in there. I asked both of them, really, the male and the female, and I was like, look, I know it's probably not going to go that good because I was carrying a gun inside of a bar, and they were like, they kind of just like laughed. And they were like, yeah, don't worry about that. I was like, what do you mean? They were like, look, if you weren't carrying that gun inside that bar that day, that probably could have went a whole lot more bad. You saved, quite a few people, by doing what you did. So if you did not break that law, there would probably been dead people here. So, and it's like innocent people dead. So they were like, and we ran your record. We know you don't have any criminal history. We know you have a concealed carry permit. Again, we don't want to press any charges, but we got to wait for the state to tell us what they want to do. And the state came back and they were like, I'm going.
Well, they got to dot their I's and cross their T's too, because they know the media, there's going to be people out there looking at it going, why aren't you arresting this guy?
Yep.
So they're making sure they got it all.
What you just said, that was it. And Frankfurt is it's more of a wealthy, area. So like there's a lot of like, professional basketball players and stuff and lawyers and stuff like that stay in that Frankfurt area, and they got a lot of money and they got a lot. And Will County is a kind of a bit of a kind of conservative, I would say, not necessarily conservative kind, but they are very kind of strict there. So especially compared to Cook County, it's like night and day. Wow. So they were like, nah. They were like, if we press charges on this guy, we charge this guy after he just saved these people, Frankfurt, I mean, it's gonna be one. Like the whole city, like that same day at 2:00 that afternoon at that same exact bar, that whole bar was packed in support of me. They were calling me. There was bikers all over the place. They were like, if you charge this guy, we are all gonna it's gonna be a problem.
Now that right there is the jury of public opinion in your favor, because
the people were not.
Yeah, a DA looks at that and says, I'm not going to win this case. We're not going to be able to get a fair jury to go against you because so many people are for what you did. And I'm surprised. I mean, I don't want to say I'm surprised, but the fake gun, both of those being fake guns, not real guns that could have caused death or great bodily harm, it's irrelevant. And I tell my students this all the time. It's irrelevant because you didn't know it was a fake gun. But it does play on the peanut gallery, the backseat drivers, the armchair quarterbacks out there. Mm-hmm. It will play a factor in them, and the keyboard commandos, the comment commandos, whatever you want to call them, because they're going to look at, it's a fake gun. You didn't have to kill him.
They're going to ignore the fact that using that though. They got a real gun because they had the fake guns when they dumped the first. Yeah. And they'll forget that part because that's convenient to forget.
Yep, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. They gained access to her gun, and they also could have gained access to my gun too, because they got a gun pointed at me, and he would have searched me the correct way. He would have then took my gun off me, which was a real gun,
and then could have used that against all.
And then I would have been disarmed.
No, for sure. Yeah. So amen for sure. Cool. Well, this has been great. The only last thing I want to talk about, because you mentioned in both situations, and this is something I tell my students not to do, and I want to get your take on it and see if you still have the same mindset, because I might change my mind in what I tell my students. I tell my students the best medical you can provide is to call 911 and not go towards the threat, because it's still a threat and it could taint your case by doing such. And I think we've had this conversation, before, and I just wanted to hear your take on that, because you've done it in both situations where you've provided medical to them. Do you feel that helped your case? Obviously, it didn't hurt your case in either situation, but do you feel you going towards the person and providing medical to them, do you think that helped your case at all?
Because there wasn't it was really never it didn't hurt it.
Your situation. I don't want to say
my situation. It would not. I agree with you. I would tell anyone, if you're in a situation that similar to what I've been through in my life, and you shoot someone, stay away. You're not a cop. That's a job for law enforcement. Law enforcement is required to do that. You are not required to do that as a civilian. After you fire at someone and you stop them, or whatever the case is, you stay back, stay clear, and call first responders, and that should be where it should be left. Naturally, just because of the type of person I am, I can't do that. I am gonna go and do what I did because that's just who I am. That's my heart. Even if somebody did try to kill me, I'm still gonna kill them. Unfortunately, but
stop the threat.
But thank you, stop the threat. But
But you're
If I
human, Mike.
can save their life, I'm gonna try to. So excuse me.
You're
No, that's
human,
fine.
Mike. You know, and honestly, that would actually play out well for you because it shows that you're human. You
Yeah.
weren't there
Yeah.
with an intent to kill somebody. You were there
No.
doing what you had to do to protect yourself. And when that threat was no longer there and you felt in control of the situation, you tried to save that person. That's human.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're still human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, the concept that I'll use in the classes is if you go towards that individual, and I agree with you, Michael, because I probably would do the same thing you did in the sense. Once I realize the situation's secure, my life's not in danger, nobody else's life's in danger, I might go because I am law enforcement, even though I wouldn't be on the job at that time if something like that happened. I still would be, inclined to want to help the person regardless.
Sure.
But I tell my students, not to do that because one, they could still be a threat. They could have a knife. Physically, they could do harm. They could have a communicable disease, things like that. But then also I use the analogy that has anybody ever watched a dog in a movie, a dog get hit by a vehicle, or had a dog of your own get hit by a vehicle? And then be like, yeah. And then I'll be, okay, so what happens when the owner of that dog goes towards that dog that's just been hit by the vehicle? And everybody says, well, it lashes out and bites the owner. I'm like, okay, so a dog that loves you lashes out and bites you, the owner that it loves, knowing that you didn't hit it with the car, but it's hurt. It's an agonizing pain. Imagine what somebody would do to you if you shot them, knowing you shot them, and now you're going to them to help them, but they don't know you're going to help them. They think maybe you're going to finish them off. And, they might not be so, welcoming to your advances. So that's kind of how I pitch it to my students that, you got to be very cautious in that, because and also, if you're going towards somebody to, provide medical aid, it might look like you're trying to fix a mistake you made.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's all just that thought process to just get people to think. I'm not telling them. I tell them I shy against that. I wouldn't. And the hardest ones are medical professionals, EMTs, paramedics, doctors that are in my classes. They're like, well, it's Hippocratic oath, do no harm. And I'm like, yeah, but you're wearing a different hat. They were trying to take your life. You're a civilian now. You're not really a doctor at that point. But right. Kudos to you for doing that and trying, obviously. So
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, man.
It's been amazing having you on. I'm glad we finally were able to do this, and hopefully the next time we have you on, it won't be the third time.
Yeah, please.
Me.
Please.
No more.
So go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers how they can support you and give them your business. Give you their business and find out more about you, follow you, stalk you, all that stuff.
Yeah, so you can social media, Instagram, MJ's Firearms 33, Facebook is MJ's Firearms LLC, website is mjsfirearms.com, and you can go on the USCCA website. You can type in my name too. You can see my first story in 2019 when we just went over, and shortly, in probably the next few months, you'll be able to read about this story too as well that happened April 30th of 2022. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And Devin, I think this is the quietest I've ever heard you. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody how they can find you and get a hold of you?
You can find me. The most important page to support is my Kids to Kings page. That's my youth mental health outreach program that I implemented in Atlanta, Georgia. We just take the boys, try to reverse engineer a lot of the bad habits that they've picked up over the times of living in unsettling areas. So that's the main page to support. And then if you want to argue about politics and guns, you can come to trench.work.chronicles, all on Instagram, and come with your best, because
I tell you, you are one that I always love to see your post and talk about and talk to and just kind of bounce some stuff off of. We come from different worlds, but I think we both we share a common understanding and
sure.
And whatnot. So and
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's I know you had fun shooting me in Missouri too. So
hey, that to speak on that real quick, that was a very humbling experience.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Yeah, I know I can get a shot off on somebody close, but it's not as accurate as I thought the shot would be. And I noticed since I watched that film a lot to see what flaws I had. And had I had to draw from appendix, I would have died. So Yeah, it was cool shooting you, but realistically, and like having to really assess what I was doing, I have a lot to improve on in that area. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. And now I know your Instagram, your main Instagram that was kicking got taken down or shut down or shit, whatever. I mean, it's the typical powers that
disabled. Yeah, disabled for telling people to protect their kids against pedophiles.
Of course, that's the mantra. That's the mantra of the liberal mindset. But so your new one that you just gave out, do you have the video? I think you reposted that, right? Of the shootout. Yeah. So definitely, if you're wondering about what we're talking about and you want to see me get shot by Devin, you got to hit his Instagram and you can watch him.
I actually shot him twice.
Okay. Let's not get carried away.
I did. I have the film.
That's good. I let you shoot.
Okay. We'll say that. I still shot you.
I'm hoping we can do something again and sooner than next year.
Oh yeah, for sure. You got to come down to Atlanta.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Jim, let's wrap it up. Go ahead and tell people how they can find out about you and support everything you're doing.
Yeah, so with Second Amendment issues in Pennsylvania, we're FOAC, FOAC-ILLEA.org. Your normal co-host, Clint Macro, is my vice president. He and I will be starting a podcast for the FOAC-ILLEA group to talk about the legal measures and what we do to support the Second Amendment in Pennsylvania. So that'll be coming up real soon. And anytime you need a co-host, you feel free to hit me up.
You betcha. You betcha. And as like always, meetthepressers.com to check out Meet the Pressers. And then obviously from there, you can get to my training company, Public Safety and Education, as well as Clint Macro, my normal co-host. Great job, Jim. And that's triggerpressersunion.com. So until next time, everybody, thanks for joining us, gentlemen. It's been awesome. Stay safe out there and keep up the good fight.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
There's a lot of sponsors to make this show possible, like Mantis.
Make sure you check them out and give them your business.
This episode is brought to you by Saber Red, pepper spray and safety products for all Americans. Next Level Training, makers of CERT training products. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Firearms Owners Against Crime Institute for Legal, Legislative, and Educational Action. Meet the Pressers is also supported by other shows, companies, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Thanks for watching or listening to our show.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Click that little bell thingy so you know when the next episode's uploaded. Support us on Patreon. Come to one of our classes. Host us to come to you and do one of our classes at your location.
And until next time,
adieu.
Thank you for watching Meet the Pressers.